Hi guys, let's do this. It is day 4. Yes, pushing through it. I'm really excited. This has been so much fun. I sat down like I do every morning and I was prepping for today and I'm like, I love this. And I just said a little shout out. I was like, thank you, whoever is in charge of the universe, whatever you want to call it. I was like, I love this work. I love getting to connect with all of you. Thank you, God, for me getting to have this life. Such a brilliant, just awesome thing that I get to connect with you guys and do something I love. What is up, everyone? So today's a fun one. I'm excited about today. Who is with me? Pushing strong. Yes, day 4. You know, anyone can show up for day 1. Some people show up for day 2. Day 3, we're going to lose some people. Day 4, this is where it's at. And how many of you are for certain going to be here for day 5? You want to be here for tomorrow because we're going to wrap it all up. And you know me, I'm going to give you that punch. I'm going to leave you with what you know is going to be something powerful. And not only is tomorrow really powerful because there's going to be some really important content. You know, you've been going through all of this and you're going to be left with, what the hell do I do now? And so tomorrow is going to give you that plan. And in addition, I love all the hearts and the emojis. You guys are the best. Isn't it incredible how connected we've become in 4 days? It's amazing. That's how, when people say to me that I say all the time, I love you guys. And they're like, can you really mean that? I'm like, yeah, you can, right? Like when people, you feel me? Like when people are open souls and you have deep, meaningful conversations, it is so easy to love people. Like you just see the good in people and you just feel so connected. So thank you guys for having such a big heart. And so tomorrow we're going to wrap it all up and let you know what you're going to be able to do with all of this. And I'm also giving away some bonuses for those of you who show up tomorrow. So good stuff. All right. So thank you for all the positivity. We're going to get into so much today. I have so many notes of things that we're going over, and I have so many, it's like today's like show and tell. I have like so many fun things to share with you. So, all right, we're going to go over a bunch of stuff. Let me tell you what today's about. So let me give you a rundown first of what we're going to do today, and then we will get right to it. So rundown. One thing that we're going to do today is I'm going to share with you actual examples of requests, searches, if you want to call them, that come into our inbox where people who are music supervisors working at film and TV and ad agencies are asking us for songs. So I'm going to share with you actual searches so that you get a sense of, oh, that's what that looks like. That's what that sounds like. That's what that feels like. Good to know. That's what number 1. Number 2, I'm going to just read off and share with you some of our students' wins because it's just exciting to know and to see what is possible. What did I tell you before? You don't want to be hopeful. You want to be absolutely certain that what you are wanting to achieve is doable, because the more that you know that with certainty, you are going to take more action. And the way that you get there is by seeing the certainty. And sometimes you don't have it in your own life, right? Maybe you haven't gotten that result yet, so you're feeling uncertain. But then you see other people's actual results where the check has been cleared and you go, I am certain this is doable because this happened to this person and this person and this person. We're also going to talk today about the industry, right? How does it work? How do you get your song to the right person once it is finished? What are the paths to get there? We're going to go over that. We're also going to talk a little bit about the business side, meaning when you are pitching a song, not only do you need to have a creative song that works, the content needs to be great, right? We also need to make sure that we have our ducks in a row from a business standpoint. We know what it means to clear a song, because if and when the beautiful thing occurs and they want to use your song for that show that you love, they're going to ask you some questions. So we're going to talk about some of those simple questions that you're going to need to know the answers to in terms of publishing and ownership and one-stop. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. And then that's really it. And then I have a couple fun things to share also, a little bit more show and tell of a couple fun things. So let's get right down to it. So in no particular order, I think the first thing that we're going to do is actually start with me sharing some searches with you, because like I said, it's really fun to have certainty. And so I think we can start with this and work our way back. So who's already having a fun time? I already am. I'm such a dork. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Can you imagine? My husband lives with this constant. He's like, you are this way all the time, all the freaking time. And he's much more like mellow. And yeah, God bless him. All right, so let's begin. I literally printed out things that come into our inbox today. I printed out a bunch of them. So I'm going to read them to you, okay? You guys ready? Okay, here's one. Hey, Kath, I'm working on a global spot for, I can't tell you that part because it's not okay. It's not okay right now for me to tell that part, but I'm going to give you good stuff, okay? This is a global ad. Here is a mood board video. So sometimes they'll share with us like something, like they'll share with us an animatic, which is like sort of the, what's it called? A storyboard. Sometimes they'll share nothing like that with us, but in this case they did. And it says, please keep this to yourself. So I'm not going to show that to you. It says in there's also a couple tracks that I'm going to reference. Okay, it says the brand really loves this mood board and they love the track that I put in there. They like the positive vibe and the energy. They like how every 20 seconds, I'm literally reading this, they like how every 20 seconds the track shifts. This will help them with the edit. They love Portugal the Man, Feel It Still, but it's too expensive, okay? The lyrics don't need to be so specific, but they should definitely be positive. The tempo of the mood board track is also really good, so something in that region would be great. This is gonna be like a video, more like a video than a commercial. And do you wanna see the budget? Do you wanna see the budget on this ad? Do you wanna see it? This is the budget on the ad. What happened? So for 12 months, global, all media, $100,000 all in both sides. I'm going to tell you later what that means, okay? We'll discuss that later. Make a note. What does it mean both sides if you don't know, okay? For 24 months, all media, 150 grand. 2-minute plus cut downs. Notes from the director. The following two tracks have something we really like as our final. Danger Twins, they like as a reference, the song Like What You See, and Glimmer of Blooms, their song Take My Hand. I need tracks by the end of the day, please. Send me as many as you think would fit the brief and the budget. Thanks so much. Okay, so let's talk about a few things from this search that I have been working with you guys on for the past 4 days. One thing, let's just go from the bottom up. I need tracks by the end of the day. So what does that mean? Remember somebody said, so what do? You like get a request and you go in the kitchen and bake something up? No. So we have to anticipate. Anticipation is the name of the game. So we're constantly working to anticipate this. This is why I created a 6-month program, you guys. There's a rhyme and a reason. There's a method to the madness. People have to be in an incubator where they are growing their craft, where they're working their mastery and thinking ahead about this so that they already have that catalog. That's why yesterday I shared with you that I had created that EP taking months. It actually took almost an entire year. I remember going into the studio with Billy in February, beginning of the year, and we finished the EP in October. So almost a full year, about 10 months. And then I started pitching. In fact, what was crazy is I was pregnant with my daughter. And I remember I was pregnant with my daughter and I was in labor with her in November and I was clearing a couple songs. We got a couple licenses and I remember music supervisor were like, are you in labor? So I was prepping right before I started pitching. I spent almost a year writing the songs that I wanted to write with this in mind. Okay, keep that in mind. Another thing to know, the budgets on these things are awesome. And listen to this, okay? They said Portugal the Man was too expensive. Did you remember that? And then they said the budget was $100,000. So here's what I want you to understand. The reason why indie artists make a living with licensing their songs is because The labels have set such a precedent on what they will charge for a song to be licensed by a very well-known artist. So that becomes expensive, which creates a huge opportunity for indie artists to fill a need. If we can create songs that creatively stand up and hold up, then they feel as though they're actually getting something that's more affordable. And the more affordable rate is $100,000 in this case. It's not always. It is not always. There are some ads that are 12 grand if it's like regional. If it's a global ad though, it's big. Okay. If it's a regional spot for, like, let's say it's not for Toyota, it's for the Toyota dealership that's down the block from you, that will be different. So it depends. But I'm going to share with you a range. Okay. So I want you to understand a few things. Also, they're giving us reference tracks. So Portugal the Man, very cool. Also, the person who's writing this is saying, we like how it changes every 20 seconds. Have we not talked about that? Did I not tell you from the moment we started this, we cannot have songs that do this? We need creative dynamics in these tracks. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that one. So also just wanted to say that Portugal the Man and Danger Twins, really good bands to think about, okay? So let's move on. Next one. Okay, next one. All right, so this one, we are still on the lookout for tracks for a campaign we've been working on. They are loving the song Times Like These by Jillian Edwards. It is everything we need. Right emotion, right lyric, which makes people cry but has an emotional build, and the feel is very good. We need more tracks just like this. Is there anything in your catalog that could work? The lyrics should be about being there for someone, helping hand, unconditional, togetherness, not in a romantic way. I gave you some of those themes, right? We see these all the time. So togetherness, not in a romantic way. Remember we talked about how romantic songs are in one category. That's like 90% of the songs ever written since the beginning of time. And then 10% of the other songs, 10% is all the other songs that have ever been written, which are not about romantic love. And those are the things that come up a lot. So then they said usage, term, and budget. Usage will be regional. Now, remember I just told you about global and regional? A regional broadcast, so TV, internet, digital. Industrial also, okay. Territory is only Arizona, Nevada, and parts of California. The term is 1 year. The budget is 15 grand. Why is it 15 grand? Who was paying attention? Because it's regional. If you're looking at Nevada and Arizona, as opposed to a global spot, you get it, right? You're either in every city or you are in this little part of the world, which is like just a totally different, the ad spend is going to be different. Therefore, you're going to spend less. It's just a totally different thing, okay? And again, what are they letting us know? They're letting us know budget. They're letting us know term. They're letting us know the kind of lyric. They're letting us know sort of the reference. And again, she says the song has an emotional build. Okay, here's another one. This is an interesting one because this is from another country. Do you remember that I told you? Okay. I have a new brief from Russia. It's for baby food. They want a song from the last few years that was not a hit. They want something catchy. They want something that could sound like a potential hit. The meaning of the song should touch one or more of the following topics: happiness, love, family, children, victory, marriage, joy, overcoming difficulties, happy ends, inspiration. It should be an ode to parents who are proud of their child's successes. Here's an example of a song that the client likes, and they didn't put the name of the song, so I don't have it. It's a hyperlink. This is just Russia only. Let's see, 50,000 euros all in. Okay, again, all in means both sides. We'll talk about what both sides means. We'll get into that in a second. We're talking about the master side and the pub side, okay? So good for you. I just pulled a smattering from the last year of all different kinds of searches that you could see, okay? All right, who's enjoying this? Who is enjoying this? Let me show you something else. All right, let's just go through a couple other ones, all right? Okay, here is for a clothing brand. Hey, Kathy, we're working on a new project for a clothing brand. The spot talks about how women can do anything they want these days, but there's still a stigma against being middle-aged. So the brand wants to call that out. That's ageism. We're looking for a strong, positive, bold, anthemic track from a contemporary emerging artist. For example, they love Beyonce's song, Grown Woman. We can't afford that. We're looking for lyrics that help convey this message. Be strong, be bold, be proud, be yourself, be confident, be self-assured. We would love to find something that directly addresses this age thing, but we totally understand that that's not going to be quite specific. Here's the usage. 1 year, North America, TV, internet, industrial, 60 and cut down. 60 and cut downs means they're going to use it for like a minute and then they're going to have cut downs at different kinds. Exclusivity, TBD, but will likely be just clothing retailers. Now you can remember that later because we will talk about exclusivity. Budget is $85,000 all in. So all in again means both sides. We'll talk about what that means. Timeline, looking for tracks by tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have any ideas? Okay, so let's go through a few key points. Looking for tracks by tomorrow. Not time to go write and record something we didn't anticipate. Oh, good news. Lucky for us, we know that they need songs about female empowerment. This comes up all the time. We're already on top of that. So if you're in my program, you've already written that. You've already gotten feedback on that. You've already written a couple songs on that, right? Like you've been working this, okay? Again, nice to know that the exclusivity is just going to be for clothing retailers, and that's only for the term, okay? For clothing retailers. So we'll talk about that later. Nice to know that the budget is 85 grand since they can't afford Beyonce. And this is where my husband used to say to me, do they know, like, do music supervisors know that you guys would jump up and down if it was 24 grand? And I'm like, they probably do, but hopefully they don't. Like, it's the amount of money is so great. This is why it pays to do your homework and to put in the investment. There are times where people are working super hard. My sister does voiceover and she's great at it. And I'll say to her, okay, so what happens if you get like a commercial or you get to be in, like, she's been in a couple movies. She's like, oh, they pay me actor scale for a day. And I'm like, so what is that, $17,000? She's like, no, it's like $700 a day. But I mean, if it's 4 days of work, it's really good. I'm like, how on earth? Because, right, it takes massive action to get a small result. Massive action leads to this much result. So if you want this much result, you have to do this much action. So for the amount of auditions she goes on and the amount of voiceover tapes she sends in, the fact that when she finally gets one, you're talking about $700, takes my hair, pulls it out of my head. I like that you can't, like, how do you live? Like, I just don't get it. Like, unless you become Dan Castellaneta and you become the voice of Homer Simpson, that's like beyond the beyond. But like, if you're just, I just don't get, I don't get how some people are in that situation. And what I also don't get, really I don't, is the degree of how many musicians shake their head at what I do and go, I would never do that. Yeah, don't do it. You really shouldn't. You really shouldn't spend your time on something that when it actually cracks, that one thing that cracked, even if all the other 50 you got rejected, if you got that one thing, you'd make 80 grand. You shouldn't do it. It's totally not worth it. You're right. You shouldn't. Instead, you should just like complain or like just play shows to like your few friends and then like just talk about how the industry is like horrible. Just do that. So much better. Can you sense? I get really annoyed because like it's ridiculous. But my students know that that's not true. Okay, let's play a couple other ones. All right. Hey, Kathy, we have a new search. This is for the global campaign. They're looking to mix things up, but trying to shake up their image for a modern, fresher feel. Looking for tracks with an upbeat summer vibe, ideally a little fresh, a little modern, a little cool, unexpected for this brand. If it has lyrics, they should allude to having a good time, doing things your way, your style, appropriate for summer visuals. We're also open to instrumentals. A potential direction to consider is what would play in a hot club in Ibiza, but we're open to other moods. The length is 60 seconds. This would be 60 seconds for TV and radio. Broadcast, it would be North America and Australia. And this would be an option for renewal at the same rate for 6 months, looking for tracks by 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay? So now this was $17,000, and the reason is because This brand is not like a Nike, okay? It's a smaller, newer brand. So it is global, but for them, a global spot is still, they're just not going to spend the same amount of money as one of those big retailers, okay? So I don't know how many more of these that we have to do. Maybe we'll just do this one more. Let me see, because there's a lot, okay? Yeah, let's just do one more, okay? One more. This is for a TV show. Budget, 7 to 10 grand all in. One stops only, please, unless it is 100% certain, easy to clear, and in budget. Okay? So this is important stuff. Song needs a slam, bam, quick in and out needle drop that proclaims we've arrived in a sassy way. Fun and poppy, but with some swagger, attitude in the vein of something iconopop, someone who can dance. The scene. This is the audience's introduction to our main character's best friend. The song underscores a posse of young, rich, gorgeous, loud, and proud millennial friends showing up out of the blue in an unexpected location to surprise their bestie at work. It's the kind of posse that calls a lot of attention to themselves, and the song plays into that. The song also mimics the contrast between the friend group and the surrounding fair outside. Two completely, okay. They're just giving you a sense of the show. So now this is good to know because for television, for a TV show, this is actually a decent amount of money for a TV show. Because again, I told you, an ad budget is just gonna be bigger because you're looking at one song for one ad. In a TV show, you're looking at 22 episodes. Each episode might have 3 to 4 to 5 music cues, and they have one budget for every episode and all the cues. There's just going to be a lot less money to go around. And again, it's not as important. You know, the third song in the 4th episode, not as important as the song that's in the brand ad, right? That makes sense. You guys following me? Cool. All right, so that was the first thing that I said that we were going to do today is I was going to read you some search requests. And the second thing I said I was going to do is share with you, like just so you can see like the complete package of that. So we do 2 things, right? I actually do 6 things as a person, right? I host a podcast and I teach this program, and we don't have to get into everything else. But at Catch the Moon, there's 2 pieces. We have an agency where we get searches like that and we respond, and we're doing licenses. We're doing a license today, actually. And I want to give a shout out to John Kleinbelt and Sam Knack, who I know are both in the chat, because yesterday, can I say? I think I can say, right? Can I say, John? Let me know if I can say. They got a huge placement yesterday for a major brand, and I'm so excited for them. And if you say that I can say, then I will say it. But that was yesterday, so congrats. Really proud of you guys. You're so deserving of it. That's the truth. So well deserved. It is not luck. I've watched these 2 men work their tails off, and not just in terms of their musicianship, in terms of the way they are generous with other people, in terms of how much time and energy they put on their craft. You guys deserve it. I'm pretty sure that you're going to tell me, oh, John said I can share it. So they got a license with one of their songs for a Dove commercial, and that's awesome. So awesome. So well deserved. Yeah, it's just really cool. I feel like one of the things that our program does as a side piece, but I think it's actually one of the main pieces, is it has attracted so many great people together. And so Sam and John, they were both in this program, and I think that is a huge win. I think that we are all looking for like-minded, talented collaborators who get it up here, who are willing to put in the work, and who also get creatively what the vision is. When you have humility and a good work ethic, it's incredible what people can do when they come together. So you guys are the best. Congrats. So at Catch the Moon, we do licensing, and then we also run this 6-month mentorship program. But it's not like any other program that I've ever been a part of. I feel really blessed to get to be a part of it. Actually, even though I created it, I feel like I get to be a part of it because I've met the kindest people in the world, truly. Truly. So the other thing that we do is we run this program. And so what happens is as we are sort of cultivating and working with and really rolling up our sleeves and helping these artists, we will let them know about when we have requests coming in. And so I'm just going to share with you some of the wins that our students have had. And then some of these students have also gone on to have wins beyond this, beyond what we pitch, because sometimes they go through the program, they write the great song, and they'll tell me, this song that you gave me to write as the assignment and the one that you guys loved and got that feedback, I then met this licensing agent through your program, and then she, whatever it is. So here's a smattering. This is just one list, but there's a much longer list. But here are a list of some of the wins from some of our artists. And on here, you have artists of ours. Some of these, they're just great. Reebok, Ralph Lauren, Kellogg's, Walmart, Petco. Seth Jensen just posted his beautiful Expedia placement and his story. Thank you, Seth, for sharing that. I ran into him at a party up in the hills like 2 weeks ago. He's like, Kathy, he's like, do you remember me? I was in your program. He's like, oh my God. He's like, you don't understand. This is my wife. And they're so cute. And he's like, we took your class and I did everything that you said. And he said, we just got this Expedia placement and it's allowing us to get a lease on like our dream house. So thank you so much. And those are like the best stories in the world. And then there's also a lot of TV on here, like a Hulu trailer and Chicago Fire and a bunch of TV shows, a Microsoft ad and different Major League Baseball and The Young and the Restless and Fox Sports and So You Think You Can Dance and what else is on here? Grey's Anatomy and Coors Light and Total Bellas and BMW and Younger and the show Younger and a show called Are You the One and Shameless and Hyundai and Acura and Nordstrom Rack. And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on here. I just love all of these humans. So that's exciting. Okay, what else is on my list? Okay, my other list. Oh, and by the way, I just want to share with you that yesterday I went to the mailbox because, sometimes people are like saying things and you're like, God, I want to believe it's so bad, but I just don't know. I just don't know if it's actually true. So I actually was about to go, went to the mailbox like I do, and then I was about to go deposit these checks and I said, no, I'm going to show this to you guys. So, because it's nice to see it, right? So here's a check that we got yesterday. You can see the date. Okay, I went to the mailbox yesterday. I don't get to the P.O. box every day, but here's a check I haven't cashed yet for $27,000. I'm going to send this to an artist. Is that nice? I like that. That's a fun feeling. And here's another check for this is like we did this was just for the instrumental and this was just for social media. So this was a Ralph Lauren. This was Ralph Lauren. This was only $2,800, but it was still $2,800 and it was just for them to use in their social. So that just came in yesterday. I thought you guys might want to see that. Okay. So let's talk about how you get your songs to the right people. Okay. So you hear about stuff like this and how does it work? Okay. So let's back up and think again with our empathy. Let's begin with the end in mind and let's think about who we're serving and let's think about where they are and how they are sourcing music. Okay. So you have music supervisors who work at, let's say, a studio like DreamWorks, Lionsgate, Paramount, NBC, right? It might work at a studio. That's one set. You have music supervisors who work at ad agencies. Sometimes ad agencies don't have a music supervisor in-house, so they hire a third-party music supervisor, or sometimes they use their broadcast producers to just figure out and source the music as part of the job of putting together the ad. So if you're in that person's shoes, okay, music, I want you to know a few things about it. Music happens in post-production. Okay, so there, there's like production and post. People say like, oh, we'll do it in post. We'll fix it in post. You've heard that? So the music actually happens in post. So here's a couple of things you need to know. If the music is happening in post-production, it means that they maybe spent months on the creative, right? I mean, if it's a television show, they could have spent years developing it. Then the season comes along and the writers, spend the summer and the fall, they're writing, rewriting, right? Then they shoot it and they get their actor and all of this stuff. When it comes time for post, they want it yesterday. It's like, we're in post. We got a deadline. Let's go, right? And so that's where the music actually happens, in post. The music doesn't happen like, yeah, we just have all the time in the world, because what they do is they want to shoot what they're shooting, and then they want you to fit a song to it. Okay, so that's where time is of the essence, number one. Okay, so we're putting ourselves in that person's shoes, and we're saying, okay, they're in post-production. It means everyone's breathing down their neck saying, we're already over budget, we're already over time. You know how when you're doing a remodel of your kitchen, it always takes longer and it's always more expensive, right? How many of you watch HGTV? I'm obsessed with it. I love it. It's so fun to watch. So I find it just so calming. In any case, it's the same thing with production. It's always more time and it's always more over budget. So when it comes time for the music, they have less time than they thought they were going to have, and they're up against the deadline, and they have less money. Okay, so now you're going back into that person's headspace, and you're like, okay, this person works at an ad agency or a film or TV studio or a trailer company. They need a song. So if you had very little time, are you going to just put a call out on the internet and say, hey world, does anyone know a songwriter who can send me a song? Just think about it for a second. Just collecting songs from everywhere. Would you put it on Facebook, like to a general post? I'm a music supervisor who works at, I need a song. Does anyone in the world have a song for me? You probably wouldn't. Why would you not? Well, you might get thousands of songs sent. Thousands, right? And they might come from unreliable sources. When I say unreliable, not only you might get thousands of songs, which is too many because you don't have any time to listen. You don't even logistically have the time. But when I say unreliable, I mean unreliable in two ways. One, do these people, if you just let the whole world know, if you just let people in general know that you needed a song, would they know creatively what it means when you say you need this thing? Would they have already, like, not only creatively been aware of it and gotten it, but really worked on the craft so the quality of the music is great, number one, creatively. And then from a business standpoint, can you trust that when you put the word out to the world that you know, since you never met these people, right? Never met them, that they're gonna be really professional and send you music and know how to clear it? No, of course not. Absolutely not. So you would never do that, right? You'd never just say, hey, everyone who ever had a song or knows a songwriter, send me music. You wouldn't do that. What you would do is, your job as a music supervisor is all through your work, all through the years, all through the project, even before you've gotten the creative. Your role, as soon as you start at that job, when you sit at that desk, you're going to be sourcing relationships with human beings who you can trust to send you things quickly, that you know they get creatively, and that you know they get business-wise, to make sure it's professional and there's not gonna be any legal issues and there's not gonna be any hang-ups and snags in getting that cleared super fast. Are you with me? Okay, so let's repeat. You would be sourcing relationships, you would be curating. Now again, a music supervisor is kind of like a curator. Think about if you've ever been to an art gallery and you see there's a whole, they're doing a whole, what would we call a show, right? They're doing a whole curated, why can't I think of the word? In any case, the curated piece, the curated show, or I can't think of what the word would be for that. Anyway, I need to think of another metaphor, but the person who curated that show maybe said, we're gonna do paintings of farmers. We're gonna do paintings from the 20th century. We're going to do contemporary, whatever it is. Part of the job of a music supervisor is being a curator, right? Like understanding this kind of taste in music. And so when they get hired, part of what they get hired for is their taste, right? Like they've curated great playlists. They understand how to put together a vibe that really builds a soundtrack around this particular show. So when they reach out, what they're also doing is they're curating a group of people who are tastemakers. So they are going to want to reach out to licensing agents who they believe have the kind of taste, right, and professionalism, so that they know, I'm a music supervisor working on this show all year long, and I have a few licensing agents now that I go to. And then they might divide them. They might say, these 4 licensing agents are the people I go to when I need these kinds of tracks, hip hop stuff, R&B stuff. These 4 licensing agents got tons of singer-songwriter. They're so good at curating great artists for that. And then they start to have an even smaller pool. So now they go from, let's say they know 50 licensing agents that they trust, who they think are good creatives and professional business people. They'll say, okay, of these 50 licensing agents, I want to narrow that down even more because I'm not going to have the time when I'm actually in need. So then the moment comes where they need a track and they say, okay, so we're going to reach out to Catch the Moon as one of the people we're going to go to for this, because in the past they've been super professional. That's got to be for sure. And from a taste perspective, they tend to have these kinds of artists. So I just had them in mind. Do you hear what I'm saying? Okay. So this is where they go. This is how they do it. Here's another way. Here's another place where they might go. They might not have much money for something, right? There might be a scene in a movie where they have like $500 and it's like filler. It's just background music. For that, they might go to a library. They might be like, I just need library tracks. They might even like license like 1,000 of them just so they can use them for the next 3 seasons and just be like, oh, this is all the kind of stuff we need. And we'll just have them so we can just plug them in. Okay, that's like another place. They also might go to a music house. Now, why would they go to a music house? They would go to a music house if they want a composer, if they want something custom, if they don't need something in 3 days, but they say, we want you to compose. And again, that would be different than a license. And that's not necessarily the kind of work that we do. We're talking about scoring. That's different. And that would be something that they might even pay them to do it, like a work for hire. So we're not a music house. We're not working in that world. We're working with songwriters and artists and producers who are creating music and licensing it, which means they can license it again and again and again, that same song, right? That's the business that we're in. There's plenty of work to go around in all of these categories. I'm trying to think, what are the other things they might, so we have libraries, a music house, a licensing agent. Trying to think, what else am I missing? I just thought of something before, I just forgot. Okay. So if you, as the artist, have music and you're thinking, okay, so how am I going to get my song to them? Well, most of the people who come into our program to speak to our program will say, it's good to get a licensing agent like Kathy, right? Someone who we trust, who has a good reputation, who also is known for having good taste. And if you feel like, if you feel like you'd rather be on sort of the express train, rather than the other route is, you could say to yourself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go ahead and try to pitch on my own, which I think everyone should also do that. I really do. It just takes a lot more time, right? Because it's going to take persistence and being polite, and you got to stay with it. And it could take you, no joke, it could take you months. It could take you years till somebody who needs you or writes back or trusts you. You have to really be so good at creating that relationship that they decide, I'm going to open this box and take a risk, and maybe this person won't know how to clear the song, or maybe they're going to just be super nice, but they don't send me stuff I need, and I don't have the time to just be mentoring people and giving people tons of notes. I have already so much to do. I'm in over my head with my actual job. So, but they do, I'm sure that happens because that happened to me. It takes time. It took me years, right? Which is why I put this program together, so that in my program, you really have both, right? You get us as a licensing agency. And when we love what you're doing, we will sign a song. And by the way, we like to sign our artists non-exclusively, so that if you want to work with another licensing agent, we really are, we want you to do that. We encourage that. We don't want you to be stuck, because I'm really about you just getting the result. It's not about having to work with us. But the other thing that we also do is we love to connect. I like to take you on that sort of like super express train and introduce you in the program to the actual music supervisors and ad agencies, because so many times in our program, I told you the other day about Jen Malone, but it's happened with so many different people where they'll be like so generous. And they'll say, yeah, you could email me directly, or, or sometimes they'll say, you know what, send it through Kathy. And Kathy, will you put together a folder for me of your favorite tracks? We had Brittany White come into the program a few months ago, in the beginning of the year. Actually, I guess it's not a few months ago, it's the beginning of the year. And she works at Chop Shop. Chop Shop does like all the Shonda Rhimes shows like Grey's Anatomy, Scandal. They also do a lot of big movies like Hunger Games, Twilight. And she came in and we have them listen to like 5 songs, and she was blown away. And those of you who were on the call, you could attest, but she was like, I want this song. I want this song. Send it to me. Send it to me. So I like to do both. And it's so rare in this world that you have that opportunity, but that's the opportunity that exists in our program. So those are the 2 different ways, is working with a licensing agent, or you can pitch yourself. And it takes its time, right? Business is about relationships. It's not numbers. It's about building relationships. It's about empathy. So it does happen. And I think you should do both. I encourage my students and I teach my students in the program. In fact, I think one of the secret sauces that we have is that I really work on teaching them how to send great emails and how to pitch. And I encourage them to do both. I think it's really important. Like I said, no one's going to wake up every day as excited about your music as you, unless it's your mom. I mentioned that. So you got to be your best advocate, and it doesn't hurt to do both. I think that you should just have throw as much at the wall as possible and see what sticks. So those are the 2 roads. Okay, so now let's talk about the business side. Remember I kept reading in those searches and it said all in or both sides. Some of you are like, oh, I know what that means. You don't have to go over this. Let's just go over it so that we know. So when we say one stop means that we can clear both sides. Now, what does it mean, both sides? So when you're talking about a sync, I kind of want to draw this, but I'll just use my hands. When you're talking about a sync, you're talking about doing a license for 2 pieces. You're talking about doing a license for the master and the songwriting, which is the writer share and the publishing share. And those 2 things, the writer share and the publishing share, that they actually share 25% each of that 150% side. And then the other 50% is the master. And what's the master? It's the recording itself, okay? So you have the master, which is the recording. That's 50%. That's 50% of the fee. And the other 50% goes to the songwriting, and that's divided into publishing and songwriting, okay? Is that clear? Okay, so you would need to know who owns the master and who owns the songwriting. So let's talk about the master. So you, as the artist, there's a million different ways people can break this down. It just depends on what you decided to do when you recorded it. Some people own their master, pay their producer, and they own their master. So the producer got paid and they own their master. Some people make a deal with the producer that says, in order for me to get more work done, and I really want to work with you, and it seems like this is a better fit to do this, I'm going to pay you whatever your producer wants, and you're going to make a piece of the master. Some people create some sort of a cap where they'll say, I'm going to pay you this much, and you're going to make, let's say, 50% of the master up to a cap of $10,000. And once you make that, then the rest of it's mine. You can make, this is between you and your producer. What's also, I have to say, one of the most incredible aspects of being in our program is that there have been so many people asking, how do I get music produced? I've wasted so much money, or it's costed so much money, I cannot tell you, but you have to just ask the people in the program how many great producers are in our program and how much of a resource that is, because people start to collaborate and then they say, I can't afford to pay you, but I'm a great songwriter. Let's just get it done. And then what I've seen happen a lot is the producers in our program will work with artists and they'll say, don't pay me anything up front. Let's just give me a good split of the master and let's just work together and let's hustle and let's all figure out how we can add value to this process. Maybe I'll do the production, you'll sing it, and then maybe you'll also help pitch and you'll do some pitching and you'll help with trying to get this to licensing agents and that, and people just come together. So that's really cool. So master, you get paid, who owns it? Making sense? Then let's look at the other side. So 50% of the sync fee is the master, 50% is the songwriting, and the songwriting is broken into 2 parts. So half of the songwriting would be for who's the writer? Like, is it Kathy Heller, ASCAP, or is it 2 writers? So it's Kathy Heller and Kyler England, and they're both at ASCAP, let's just say. Now who owns the publishing? So that would come down to, does Kathy Heller own her own publishing, or does she have a publishing deal? So I don't have a publishing deal. That was always my choice because I just personally believe in that. So, and if you do have a publisher, that's also fine. All of this has to be known and documented. That's it. As long as you're clear, as long as this is in the metadata, as long as you know what all these words mean, you have no problem. It doesn't matter if there's 6. I mean, it does matter. I'm going to tell you in a second why it's better to be one stop. But is it possible to clear songs that have 3 writers and one is a pub deal? Yes. It's just much more advantageous, because if it's between a song that's easy to clear because there's only one phone call to make, or a song that has 12 writers on it and one lives in Switzerland, if I'm in post-production and both songs are pretty good, I'm just going to go with the one that's easier to clear. You will never be the most talented person in a room, right? You cannot control that, but you can be the kindest, humblest, hardest working, and easiest to work with, most professional. Like, you can be that. I'm telling you. So we have to play to all of our strengths. So for me, I made it my priority. Like, yeah, it's all about beginning with the end in mind, right? So like, of course I could have, at a certain point when I had a lot of success, I was in a really good position to basically write with anyone. People were like, oh, you get a lot of placements and you have a good personality. And I would just be like, I'm just going to keep it to people who don't have publishing deals. It just makes it easier for me. But it doesn't mean that it would have been a bad idea. It's just for me, okay? Because one stop is going to just make it easier to clear. So on that side, now I want to talk about what it means to have ownership versus control. If you own a part of the song, that's one thing. Maybe you own the master. Maybe you own 50% of the master. Maybe you own your own publishing. Maybe you own your writer's share, definitely. Okay. But what does it mean to have control over the song? This is important. So let's say I, Kathy, write a song with Kyler and she owns 50% and I own 50%. But let's say I say to her, would you give me control, not 100% ownership here, not taking her part, but would you give me control so that if we ever get a license opportunity, you allow me to clear it on our behalfs? Now, if she says yes, that's one stop. Does that make sense? Now, this person only has to get my approval. They don't have to call her because she gave me control. So you want to be in a position, ideally, it doesn't have to be, but you ideally want to be in a position that you wrote a song and either you wrote it by yourself, which I think it's better to co-write. But when you have your co-writers, you make the deal with them that says, you own your share, I'm not taking anything from you, that would be unethical, but I want control so that we can just quickly clear licenses. And you give that person control also to clear. Because that way it's kind of like another word to say it would be like power of attorney, but not really, because that's a whole other legal thing. It just means that you have control over it. Okay, so that is sort of some of the business jargon that you have to know. And the very first time that you misrepresent that and you say to your agent or to the ad agency in good faith, you didn't realize it, but you made a mistake, and you say, I control the whole thing, and you don't quite know what that means, and it turns out that one of your co-writers has a publishing deal with Cobalt, you burn the bridge. You're never working with them again, because what happens is you signed it thinking you knew what it meant to have control, but even if your co-writer means well and goes, yeah, you can have control, they can't give you control if they have a publishing deal, because that would be the publisher's right? They'd have to give you that control, and they're not going to do that most likely. So we have to just know our terms. Or the first time that you send in a song and you write down that you're the writer, and you don't mention that the master is not owned by you. It's owned by your producer, and that producer has a manager and they don't get to clear it and you cleared it. Problems. This is where problems happen. This is why I told you the other day that music is really, most of the music supervisor's job where you think it would be just creative, these are people who are music fans, it winds up being a legal job. So they do this much creativity and then this much paperwork, and it's all legal. It's like contracts, and it's important because I mentioned to you that the biggest lawsuits have to do with music because there's so many variables. Whereas like if you hire a director to shoot the show, it's kind of straightforward. There's what else is going on. But if there's a song and there's another writer, and that there's just, people will just gouge these brands because it's just, we're in a really litigious society, and it's really a problem, and no one can stand it. The second they even smell that you don't know what you're talking about, or that you might be unclear, no way, never again. They will get fired. Like, it's not just that they won't like it and it's like a bummer. they will get fired. They will lose their job. If they clear a song for an ABC show and you told them you and this person wrote it and you forgot to mention that this person had a publisher or whatever, they're going to wind up hearing from Warner Chappell, and then their boss fires them because they have to pay a legal suit, right? So this is why it's really important, okay? So we need to understand the difference between master, owner, writer, publisher, basic contract nuggets, super important. You guys getting this? Now, most of you probably already know all of these things, but it doesn't hurt to go over it because we have to be grown-ups and put on our big girl pants and be like, this is not, you know, I'm not just a girl who's like making stuff. It's a business. Like, you're in a business. You need to be a business person. And this stuff has to be legit. And I can tell you, oh my gosh, knock on wood, like I fear the day that would ever happen, because I've just never found myself in that position because I'm meticulous about it. But it's very scary when you're an agent, because when you're an agent, you give people contracts, right? And you trust that they sign the contract and they tell you what they tell you, right? It's like, if somebody sends me a song and I love it and I say, we want to represent this, I say, who wrote it? Who owns it? And I trust them, right? I trust that they're telling me the truth. The second I realized that they made a mistake and they didn't understand, and they wrote this whole record except for that one song they wrote with that person, and she had a pub deal, and that's now the one song we just pitched, I'm in trouble, right? That's a problem. That person is never going to be on our roster again. I can't afford it. It would take down the whole ship, because then we burn a bridge, which then everybody associates Catch the Moon, and then they don't want to come to me because they're like, oh gosh, you might have a dangerous apple in there, which could get me fired. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So we just need to know the business terms. And that's why there's so much to business. Like, when you see someone who's successful, it's so easy for people back in the cheap seats to be like, oh, she was lucky. Oh, no, this is about being professional, having etiquette, making good relationships, being empathetic, being on top of your game, knowing the business parts, knowing how to be strategic so that you're not only got your ducks in a row, but that you sort of brand yourself as being easy to work with, so that imagine, and this is what we do at Catch the Moon. Our whole position is, not only do we have music that's artistic and great for licensing, but 99.9% of it is one stop. So you can come to us when you know you're going to need a song that's creative, that's great, that's a real artist, and we're going to make it easy to clear. So it just becomes a pretty cool thing for people to be like, let's just check in with them. What do they have? What do they have? Okay. Okay. How are you guys doing? I'm throwing so much at you. How's it going? All right, I'm gonna take a drink of water. So, so much stuff going on. So that is one thing. That is one thing that I want to say about the people who work with us, the artists who we've signed, and the artists who are in our program. And I have to tip my hat. Really, I do, because you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, just so you know. Like, by the way, that's just so true about life and everything else. But I think that one of the things that makes everything that we do stand out, you know how, like, if somebody went to Harvard and you know that, you automatically think something about this person, like positive, right? You'd be like, oh, okay, this person went to Harvard, so that speaks volumes. Like, I know this person works hard. He or she's probably really smart. There's like a right away. Or if somebody tells you they went to Berklee School of Music, right away, you just feel like you understood this person. You're like, oh, this person's really talented, and this person they know their stuff, right? They're coming out here. Same thing if someone tells you, I went to NYU Film School. You're like, oh, you're talented, right? And there's like a certain kind of professionalism that you would kind of feel like they had. The same thing that's true with other things, right? There's other kinds of schools or cultures or environments where we might think like, oh, you went to that school? All right, so you like to party. And maybe it's not even true. It's possible. I mean, I went to Florida State, right? And I'm who I am. And I think at the time it was the #1 party school. Do you know that I went to 1 football game in 4 years? So it's like, sometimes it's not true. But in general, people do think that, you know, you went to Florida State. All right. Yeah. Okay. I think that one of the most beautiful things about the program that we've created is that the reputation is just now, it's its own thing because of all of the human beings because of maybe my reputation and then what they know that goes on in there. So when people hear like, oh, I was in the six-figure songwriting program, Kathy Heller was my mentor, music supervisors are like, oh, they've told me that. We've gotten letters from people saying like, as soon as they tell me that they work with you, I just feel more at ease. I feel like I can trust them. I feel like they're going to be respectful and humble and hardworking, and they always are. And your students like will hear the nicest things, like they're the ones, they stand out. They're so kind. They're so compassionate. They do the work. They're not expecting immediate results. They're not pushy. They're so sweet, this and that. And it's so true. And then they become really good friends with each other, because it's hard in this world, in any industry, let alone the music business, to find people who treat each other that way and have that kind of work ethic and don't feel knocked out of the game just because they don't get what they want right away. It's really, really cool. So does anyone have any questions? Because we're coming to the end of the hour and I want to leave some time for questions. Anyone have any questions? Any questions for me? I know I have to go read through all of these awesome comments. Who are examples of publishers? What's an example of owning your publishing? Any literature you can recommend? So publishers would be like a Warner Chappell, like a Cobalt, like a Sony ATV. There's also indie publishers, right? Downtown Music Publishing. An example of owning your own publishing is you wrote the song, you didn't sell your publishing share, so you own it. And then you register that at a PRO. Don Passman has a great book. And then there's a bunch of other great books on that. Let's see. What else? Are you familiar with BOK? I don't know what that is. How do you word things to a soup to show them things are easily cleared? That's what we use the words one stop. One stop, they kind of know what that means. That means I'm letting you know that I have full understanding of who owns what, and I have control. So if you want to clear the song, you just need to email me, and it's one-stop shop. I can clear it on behalf of everybody who's involved. Joey just said, are there a certain amount of spots open for your course? It's a really good question, actually. And I was like afraid to give you guys this answer, but I'm going to tell you right now. There are. And the reason why I felt a little bit nervous about telling you is because we've all been like getting along so well and it's so awesome. But there's over 8,000 people in this challenge group. And if you guys look back at the videos, you'll see that not everybody's here live, but then by the end of like the next day, there's like 3,000 views. And we also have these same videos that are going out to the challengers in a replay where we sent you guys a YouTube link, and then you go to YouTube and you see that it's been watched. And just for the challengers, they got that link and it watched 1,000 times. There's 8,000 people in this group. We don't have 8,000 spots. We don't have 4,000 spots. We don't do that. So I did want to let you guys know that the way that this program works, it's first come, first serve. And it is 6 months. And we give you the sun, moon, and stars. The program speaks for itself. And so I was not going to mention it until the very, very end, because I just like to keep teaching you. But you guys can join this program before the rush. You can go and join it. The link, it's always the same link. It's sixfiguresongwriting.com, the number 6. So just sixfiguresongwriting.com. And you can sign up. And you can sign up before the crowd, because we have a number in mind that we think is a good enough number where we feel like we can really show up for people, but it's nowhere near 8,000. There's no room for even half the people. There's no room for a quarter of the people. It's there's a certain amount, and we will let you know when we've reached that amount, and then we will close. And by the way, enrollment closes anyway at the end of next week. But if we meet the number before that, we're going to close it before that. So I am letting you know that. And this program, if you have more questions about it, we can talk about it. But I think what I can tell you is, in order to get things done in your life, you need 3 things. You need a proven method, right? Like, it's so easy for people to tell you, it's never going to happen, right? Like not everybody becomes Lady Gaga. Yeah, that's true. You need a proven method. Like, you can't just like walk around, like, you need a proven method. And it's ridiculous for people to tell you that it's impossible or dreams don't come true, because that is not true. Who are the hell are those people? These things do come true. We see these things happening literally every single day. Literally every single day. And the reason why maybe it hasn't happened for you so far is because no one gave you a plan. Like, you didn't have a proven method. You didn't have a plan. That's not your fault. Now you're here, you took the action, you're seeing it, right? You're seeing this proven method. And I think the proven method has to do with what you really need, right? And we talked a lot about what that looks like and who you need this stuff to get to. And we talked about what that looks like. And you know what? With anything in your life, like, there's always going to be options, right? Like, who is going to teach this to me? Who's going to be my mentor? Who's going to help me show me the way? There'll always be options. I think that what makes every option different is the inherent difference in the character. What is different? What's the DNA that's different about the person, right? Because that's what makes us all different. It's not necessarily, some people have similar information, but it's, what is it about them that's their character trait that makes it different? And for me, I teach my artists how to build an empire through empathy. That is hands down what makes it different. And it's not just empathy for themselves, and it's not just empathy for their person who's going to be their patron and pay them. It's empathy for their co-writers. It's empathy in the way they write emails. So what I wind up doing is I'm teaching people how to be the best version of themselves. I'm really like coaching you, like, to get out of because 80% of everything is going to be the psychology. So I'm going to show up and do that in a way that I don't think everybody does. I don't think that just happens to be my like bat signal. Like, I coach, I build business through empathy. I teach you how to do that, become the best version of yourself. And then we do have all those other great components in this program where it's like, we're a licensing agency. We get searches, we share searches with our students, but then we also introduce you to the people directly. Not to mention, you're going to meet collaborators, and everyone in that program is being coached by me. So they start to show up in their life differently and show up for all of you and each other differently. And so far, it's been a really good recipe for success. So we can talk about that more again later. But yeah, space is definitely limited. And remember, having accountability is 95% of what gets a person an actual result. So we could talk about it again later, but if you guys want to get ahead of the rush, I'm just letting you know. These are the kinds of things that, there's not an unlimited amount of space. We just do things differently. We're not a bulk. It's not, you've gotten to know me a little bit. Yeah, that's not my style. It's more of a boutique-y. It's not like, I know that some of these places, it's just awesome. Like, I've seen like people have these big rallies and there's like thousands of, like, it's just, that's so not our business model, but it doesn't mean that that's bad. I've heard such good things about all these other, which is not what we do. And I don't want to work with everyone. I just want to work with people who are committed and kind. And I want to work with people who are ready to grow. And I want to work with people who want to be really successful and not good, but great. I want to work with people who want to have a sustainable career at this. And no, I don't think it's for everybody. There are people who live in this culture of like, they want it immediately. And you have to be kind and gentle with yourself and be willing to grow and put in the time. And I think I think that's why we do have this reputation, because we're not out there trying to, it's not that, and we just don't do it. I mean, look what's happened over the last 4 days. Like, is this what you expect? I just don't do the thing. I just don't. I can't. Every time someone gives me like a thing to do where you sell this way, and like, I had a friend say to me 2 weeks ago, I know you're about to do this challenge. You should just show up every day for 10 minutes, give them a teaser, and then tell them to like join your program. I'm like, on what planet would that work for me? Do you know me? I don't do that. Like, no, I want you to come to this program and feel like you got so much out of this. I want you to walk away and be like, Cathy Heller taught me things and she's so generous and I loved it. I want to have fun with you. I want to enjoy the process. I want to enjoy these 5 days. So it's like, I don't want to hold back. I'm not in this life for that. Oh God. Anyway, don't get me started. Anyway, does anyone have any other questions? There's so many questions. Every time I say that, you're like, read the thread. And I'm like trying, but it's going so quickly. All right. Do you offer scholarships? We don't offer scholarships, but we offer an awesome payment plan. You guys, we don't offer scholarships because the price of the course is ridiculous. And the reason I can tell you it's ridiculous is because when I do a speech, now that I have this cool podcast with 8 million downloads, they pay me $25,000 to speak for an hour, which is ridiculous. And I don't do it every day, but I do it a few times a year and it's awesome. I love doing it. You could tell, right? When I'm asked to coach privately, which I don't really do because I have like 3 people I said yes to and they're so sweet and it's hard to say no, but I just don't have, there's just no time. I have 3 kids plus everything else that I'm doing. But my coaching rate is actually less than everybody else's in my field and it's $3,000 a month. And so the cost of this program is great. It's crazy. Like to spend $199 a month and have me as a coach, I don't offer that anywhere else. Like that's not what I do. That's not part of what I do for this kind of work. And it's really not just that. Like if it was like, oh, she's going to teach me things, it already would be worth it because I think I do have things to teach you. I feel really strongly about that. I'm not going to let you down. But it's not that. Like the amount of things that come, we know music supervisors who are awesome and they consult sometimes. Once in a while on their website, they'll say, if you pay me $300, I'll give you feedback on 2 songs and I'll email it to you. It's kind of standard. And we, by the way, we pay them to come in and speak for an hour because we want to respect their time. So the fact that we do that and then give you, it took me years to meet each one of these people, years. So it's not even, you can't even put a price on that. I don't even know what the price would be of that. Like, oh, I'm going to get to meet all of these people that I need to meet and they're going to listen to my songs. And Cathy's going to be like, if you go to the websites of a lot of licensing agents, I think all of them, they don't take unsolicited material because we talked about that before. They can't. Logistically, they don't have the time and the staff to listen. And also, they legally can't. So to have us there with who have your back, it's awesome. And I have an amazing co-teacher, John Kleinbell, who is just the coolest person. And he's a great producer. And I'm not a producer, I'm a songwriter. So we're a really good team. And he works in the studio every day with Billy Leffler, who was my producer, who produced the Ingrid Michaelson record. And he manages Billy. Billy manages him. And it's cool. I think maybe you guys met through me a few years ago. And it's great. So John has so much to teach you guys and really train you how to listen and how to play. And he's just a kind person who gets a lot of placements and knows what he's doing. He just got that Dove placement yesterday. So yeah, there's a lot that goes on. Anyway, enough about that. I wasn't even supposed to tell you this until the end, but somebody asked. And also, I'm glad that you asked, actually, because sometimes people get frustrated if I don't mention it earlier, since we don't take everybody. And then people are like, why didn't you mention it earlier? Now it's closed and I've had such a great 5 days and I want to be part of this now. And I'm like ready to go. I'm so lit up. So, okay, I mentioned it. Let's move on. Tomorrow, we have a lot of cool stuff that we're going to go over. And we're going to have bonuses at the end of tomorrow for those of you who really paid your dues and showed up and added so much to this week. You guys, I had such a fun time and there's more, right? We still have 20% of this week is not done. We're going to meet tomorrow, but we're going to have bonuses at the end for those of you who just stuck it out. Let me see if I can answer a couple other questions because I feel bad. There's been so many. I've just been talking and they go so quickly. Don said, repeat question. All right, so you must have asked this before. Do we need to go through your course in order to be tapped into your song listings? Do you ever work as a licensing agent and take a commission? We order your songs, be stopped. So again, good question. For the exact same reasons as I told you that a music supervisor would go to their trusted people, the exact same reasons. We don't have the time. If you read these searches, remember when I was reading these searches about like, you know, it's 80 grand, or we have 17,000, we have 100,000, 15K, we need it by 11 a.m. I just don't have time. So I don't have time. B, you wouldn't believe how much music comes in and it just sits there because A, again, legally we're not supposed to take it. We're not supposed to listen. And B, when I used to listen, and every once in a while I do listen, right? Because sometimes I'm at an event, like I get asked to be on a panel or something and people hand me CDs. People still bring CDs to things. And I'm like, why do you hand me a CD? Anyway, so at the ASCAP Expo, a couple years in a row, I did the one-on-ones where I like listen. And what I can tell you is it's so frustrating because 99.9% of the time, people just don't, again, it's like, it's not their fault. They don't know what they don't know. So I would have to sit there and teach them and I don't have the time. And I need to give that time to this really hardworking, committed group of students who's in our program. And even for them, by the way, it's not a 3-day process. We work with them. Like they get frustrated. I told you John was one of my students and he was like, yeah, forget it already. I'm at it. I've worked so hard. I'm like, you're going to see it come through. And he pushed on and then he worked on his craft even more. And then he like dug deeper into his songwriting and like it just cracked. So we have a lot that goes back and forth. We're listening to their songs. People who are in our program, we're listening to their songs. We're giving them feedback. We're sitting with them. We're listening to songs of theirs. And that's why we feel like you're putting in the work. We're going to send you guys opportunities. We're going to give you guys that. We're not going to give them every single one though. Even with people, we can't give them a listing from every single day. We wouldn't even have the time. So what we do is try to build a group of artists who are getting it, who are working on their craft. And then over the months, we're pulling songs going, let's sign this one. Let's sign this one. Put it in a folder, put it in a folder, put it in a folder so that we're then ahead of it. So I have to say, and John can back me up on this, when a search comes in today for Ralph Lauren, whatever we're working on, these songs that we have in our catalog are all students of ours from the last 3 years. So over the last 3 years, we're constantly curating and that's what we're pitching. Like, that's it. There's nothing else. Like we take the best of what comes and that's our entire catalog. And then we're constantly pulling more new songs from the catalog, if that makes sense. I think it really does make sense. Do music supervisors make the decision? Do they pitch curating music to someone higher up? Good question. I'm going to answer this. Hang on. Music supervisors will have to give suggestions to the director, producer. They'll go to what's called like a spotting session and they'll play for them the options for the scene. And then it's up to the team as a whole to decide. And the supervisor themselves sometimes say they get frustrated because like they want this song so bad and then the director picks this other song. And another thing to know about that is that's why music supervisors will sometimes say, send me what I need, not what I want. Because music supervisor might love a really cool techno house track, but if what they're working on is a General Mills spot, they need you to send them what they actually need, because they don't just make it up themselves and say, I love this song, I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it in the meeting. No, they get fired. They need to pitch the song that works for the spot. And so we all have to be on the same page. But what I have seen happen is music supervisors will love a song and it doesn't get picked and they will hold on to it as like their baby. And then they'll tell us at live events, you guys have been our live events, you'll hear, they'll be like, we didn't want to let it go. And then we were so happy we finally got it in. And then they, you know, but often I would say more than not, because a director is already so busy and because a director and a producer do a good job of hiring a good music supervisor, they usually trust them and say, I want to go with what you're choosing. I don't want to make it harder on everybody and cause us more time. They usually do go with what they say, usually, but there are times where they don't. Whatever. Sorry. Thank you. Such kind words. Do we sign people at publishing deals? We tend not to, because again, we want to have that reputation. you know, like I said, you can never control whether you're like the most talented, prettiest, whatever, but you can control what you can control. So we try to be like easiest to work with, most professional, fastest, humblest, like all of that. And it's like, why not? Like if we can help it, then we can say our songs are one stop, as opposed to, oh, you know, in this email, let me tell you, these 3 are one stop, these 5 aren't, this one has this. It's like, it's just easier to really stay true to like a brand and a messaging and say, come to us when you need great, quick, awesome, you know? So we really try, again, the rising tide helps all the ships. When you do that, it just helps everybody in that pile, right? All those artists then benefit because they get that same ambassador who's saying like, here's what we're about. We're kind, we're humble, we're personable, and it's one stop. All right. So everybody benefits from there not being confusion around that. Oh, good question. What fee does Catch the Moon charge for getting songs placed? So we, first of all, want to just make sure that you know, you don't have to place your song through us. Like if you're in our program, there's nothing that you sign that said, you know, like I think when you're on Shark Tank, it's like even if you don't get any money from the sharks, you have to give them a piece of your business. If you're in our program and you meet a music supervisor or a licensing agent, someone else through our program, that's part of what you get, right? Is us helping you connect and all that stuff. And actually, you could ask my students, I get on their case about them pitching their music. I'm like, you should be pitching directly. You should be pitching to this agency. You should send this email. This is what you should say in the email. This is the picture you should add. This is the way you should use as a subject line. Like I'm like on them to pitch because that's my path. So I actually do a lot of technical coaching in that way. I'll be teaching them, this is the kind of email that will get opened. Say this, use this subject line. Remember to talk about their mother. Like I'm like, on them to pitch their own music. So number one, you do not have to pitch your music through us. And we bring in other licensing agents into our program. I've asked Dan Kaplowitz from Friendly Fire Licensing to come talk to our students. We have worked with Wendy Griffiths, who we've made arrangements with other licensing agents that they can pitch our artist music, and they've gone on to really understand what it is we do. So that's number one. If you do sign a song through us and we pitch it, we take less than what is standard. Most people, it's a range between 30 to 50% of the sync fee. And then a lot of people take publishing, and they'll also take royalties, and they probably will sign it exclusively. We do a super simple, non-exclusive 1-year deal, non-exclusive. And we usually sign the song so that if you have other songs you want to put with another licensing agent, you should do that. Because again, beginning with the end in mind, if what we really want is for you to get the result, then you should have another agent if you want pitching other songs, or you should have the same song being pitched by another agent. That's why it's non-exclusive and it's just on the song. And then what we wind up taking is the low end. We wind up taking 30% instead of 30 or 40 or 50, and we don't take publishing. So it's just 30% of the actual one thing that we pitch we take of the sync fee. It's super simple. And again, it's because I know some people are like, oh, it's too good to be true. I'm not in it for that. I'm not in it for that. It's not, I'm in it. I've always felt like I'll get what's mine, right? Like I think that's a good lesson for everybody. I feel like in the end, if you have a lot of integrity, you are going to be successful, and you don't need to do those kinds of things, even though it's fine. People have a lot of integrity who do that. I can understand if that's what they do. It's just, that's not what I'm in it for. I'm just not in it for that. I just feel like if I do a really good job of helping grow very professional, kind, empathetic, great artists who give themselves a lot of permission to be messy so that they can get to work, and I give them accountability. And if that's my legacy, I just have no doubt it just leads to great things. And it did lead me to a podcast and a book deal. And that's the work I'm doing. And that's the work my whole team is doing. And so it's just not about those details those are just not it's not our thing. Stephanie said, if we want to pitch directly to music supervisors, how do we know what they're working on exactly and what they need and want, apart from looking on IMDb. So it depends on who the supervisor is. Like Gary Calamar was at our last live event last week. He's awesome. He's won a few Emmys. He works on a lot of the Alan Ball projects. So he went from 6 Feet Under to True Blood, and he's doing Alan Ball's next project. So when you see that music supervisors have a director they tend to work with, like if this person works on Wes Anderson movies or this person works on Quentin Tarantino movies, you start to get a style and a vibe for who these music supervisors are. If somebody works on comedies, right, like a Kevin Edelman, like he goes from How I Met Your Mother to New Girl. So you kind of know, like, there's like a range for the kinds of songs that comedies like that would use. And again, like everything, I have a friend who writes horror movies, and he just wrote a rom-com, and he can't get hired. You know, people still want him to write rom-coms. So people, or horror movies. So people like to put people in like taste buckets. It just makes life faster. So when a music supervisor is good at Quentin Tarantino, they just get more of that. When a music supervisor is good at romantic comedies or those kind of like sitcoms, they get more of it. So it doesn't mean that's all they'll do, but you can kind of know, all right, these are my film and TV people who do action stuff. These are my film and TV people who do, and then you can kind of like pull together like those people. And again, it takes time. It's a relationship business. But I encourage my students to be working on that alongside this Express Train, which is our program where we introduce you to these people and we bring it into our boutique, class, and people listen to the songs. Like I told you, we had Brittany in from Chop Shop. We've had so many great people in. In fact, I have, where is it? Oh, is it on the other page? Here. This is just, these are just screenshots. We have this in our private Facebook group, but basically this just shows you like the people who've like come in and just some of the people who've talked to our program. But a bunch of ad agency people like Mike Ladman and Eric Rich. So Mike is at McCann, or no, he's at Droga now, which is a big ad agency in New York, and Eric Rich is at Deutsch. And we have, who else is on this list? Buddha Jones Trailers and Chris Mazur from Netflix. Hard to see that. And Julian Wetland from Donor, and Brian Vickers from Disney, and Josh Rabinowitz from Gray Music, Gray Advertising. So it's nice. It's nice to do both. I would suggest you do both. And we'll talk about that. God, there's so many comments. I love it. What else? Are the live events with music supervisors part of the 6-month course, or are they separate events? Well, I have a fun bonus for those of you who show up tomorrow that relates to the live event. But we have this thing called Sync Keepers that we do, where we bring in the gatekeepers from the sync industry. And we just did an event last week, which was awesome. And we did that event for about 100 people. We had a theater that sat 100, and then we had people in the virtual room. We had about 50 people in the virtual room. And in March, we did it at a bigger theater, and that was also great. It's just great for different reasons. And so I'm going to tell you tomorrow about that. But typically, we have a big event that's open to both our students and the public. And then we have a smaller version of that, which we're trying to make just for our students. And I have a little bonus tomorrow that we could talk about. So stay tuned for that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's already 1:24. Oh my gosh. Let's see if there's one more question. Let's see. Lindsay, you're so sweet. You went to Sync Keepers in March. Yay. John said, it was great. I sat in on the virtual ticket. Yeah, that was the first time we did virtual tickets, but it was good. And by the way, the people who had virtual tickets, we took questions from them and we played their songs in the room. We gave everybody who came to the event the option to send in a song ahead of time if they wanted to be reviewed. And we got through so many songs. We got through like 36 songs over the 2 days, and we played them live in front of all the people on the panel and everyone in the room. And there were a few moments where people on the panel were like, see me after. I love that track. And I was like, yes. I love when people get it. Get it. So much good stuff in here. Okay. I think that is enough for now. Rich said, is the 6-month workshop a live classroom setting or online? So we do it online, but not like this. It's a little bit cooler. We use Zoom video, and Zoom video means that we see each other and I get to hear and talk to you. So the screen breaks up into like the Brady Bunch, picture that. And then I get to actually, it's like, it feels like a classroom, and we get to talk and ask my students. I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating. I wish I was, because I'm a little bit insane. Please ask my students, but I do these strategy sessions with them where I get on Zoom video calls, and I'm not joking that the calls are 2.5 hours. Like I could just, I mean, I already have their money, right? I could just be like, I'm just going to show up for 30 minutes. I'm on there for 2.5 freaking hours. And there's no commitment. You don't have to show up for all the calls. You can watch the replays of the calls. Not everybody can. We have people in different time zones. I've started trying to do them on Sundays because I know some people have full-time jobs. We also have office hours sometimes during the week. We try to vary it up. But I show up for those students. Like the 2.5 hours will go by, and I can't even believe it's been 2.5 hours. And I can't even believe that I still have more to teach them. I'm like, God, we just talked a couple weeks ago, and there's more. There's just so much more. And there just is, because we're talking about helping you shake off all those layers of the limiting beliefs and maybe some stuff that gets in the way of you actually taking that action. And so we want to really look at the nitty gritty. We want to look at the craft. We want to look at the creative. And then we want to spend a lot of time on, what are you doing in the business? How are you moving your business forward? Who are you pitching? How are you pitching them? What are you doing to make the relationships? What are your strategies? How are you collaborating? How are you? So that's what it feels like a classroom, because it's not like this where you guys are chatting and it's nice, but I can't see you. It's in a Zoom video chat. Yeah, that's how it goes. And that's how it goes when the music supervisors come in throughout the month. They come into a Zoom video room so that they can take your questions also and see your faces. And we have a private Facebook group for people who are in the program as well. And they talk to each other and all that stuff. All right, you guys, you've hung in there an hour and 27 minutes, and I had so much fun with you once again. Tomorrow, who is going to be there? We are going to wrap this up. I'm going to share with you, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now with all of this stuff? What are the lasting things I want you to walk away with? Some of you won't be walking away. For some of you, it's really cool. For some of you, it'll just be the beginning of having a whole new life ahead of you. For some of you, it'll be the beginning of having me in your world, and John in your world, and opportunities nonstop, and hearing about these searches and getting opportunities to submit for them, and meeting the right people and hearing from them and feeling so inspired because you just got off a call with the guy who's the head of music at Netflix, and it made you feel so excited, and you go to the piano in a new way and that'll be cool, and we'll get to know each other. And that's that's the best part of doing these things, is that I show up, I don't know who's going to come. And then at the end, it's not everybody, but there's a group of people who wind up being part of our cohort. And I get to meet the best kind of humans, like Chris Clark and Nick Phelps and John Kleinbelt and Seth Jensen and Tamara Bubble. And it's just so cool. Like all of these awesome people that I get to meet from around the world, like Cass, who lives in Australia, and Chris lives in Switzerland. I mean, it's just so great. It's awesome. I mean, what can I say? Like, I honestly, like I told you, I, no joke, sat down today and thank God. I was like, really, thank you so much that I get to do work I really love doing. And I'm sure it's obvious. When someone likes something, it's just obvious. I'm sure you can tell that I love you guys and I love doing it. All right, so I'll be here tomorrow, and then we have bonuses at the end of the call tomorrow, which you don't want to miss. If for some reason you're like, I'm dying to be a part of this, and I know that I don't want to miss a spot, because we're not going to take 8,000 people. There's 8,000 people. We're not taking 4,000 either. We're not going to take 50% of you either. We just can't. It wouldn't be a good program. We're not even going to take 25%. So if you know that you want to be in it, then join us. And if you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. And I hope that you got so much out of this, and I hope that you come tomorrow to get the rest for free. So if you want to join it, you can go to sixfiguresongwriting.com and check it out. The number 6figuresongwriting.com. I will be here tomorrow. I can't wait. I had so much fun. Thanks for being in my life. Thanks for being so awesome. And you're going to be sent the replay later with some homework to do. And I look forward to reading your homework. Also, because the feed gets super busy, and we want to just make sure that the feed is is mainly the things that we want you to know about, like the homework and you being able to watch the videos in case you need to watch a replay or someone else does. We want to be respectful of that. We want to see your homework. We want to see your homework, don't forget, but we want to see it in the homework thread, okay? So when we post the homework and then you have homework to share, instead of posting it as a whole new post, just post it in the thread if you don't mind. Okay, have a great evening, guys. We'll send you the homework and I'll talk to you soon. See you tomorrow.